My journey into hang gliding, as you just heard, started in 1974 in Austin, Texas. The first 10 years were in Austin and Colorado. Then there was a kind of a big break in 1984 when I moved to California from Colorado, and I bought a ultralight aircraft, got into a thing called paragliding, started mountain biking, and did a bunch of other stuff until finally my long lost love returned and rekindled a couple of years ago. And so here I'm going to tell you my story. Basically, I've been fascinated with flying since I was a little kid. I remember one of the things I like to do is to tie a towel around my neck, to pretend it was a cape, right? I'd crawl up on the roof of my house, and then I'd leap down to the grass and roll, and I'd pretend like I was, a flying Superman. And I did that a lot more than once. Another trick I like to do is I built model aircraft, and what I like to do was take my model, hold it out in front of me where I'm looking at the rear of the model, and then zoom around the house pretending that I was the pilot flying the jet fighter. So basically my fascination was pretty serious. It turns out the closest I ever got to flying like Superman happened in 1974 when I first flew a hang glider. That's me. That's actually my second glider. I didn't have a good picture of my first glider. But anyway, I was driving down the main drag in Austin, Texas, on my way to school at University of Texas, and I noticed a hang glider set up in the parking lot of this converted gas station, which also sold plants and flowers. And I made a U-turn, and I was absolutely convinced that that was what I wanted to do, and I bought the glider on the spot. And then I found out that I also had to buy a paperback book because the guy that sold me the glider, he didn't know how to fly. He was teaching himself, and he told me about the grassy hill at this junior high school that he'd been trying to learn how to fly. So I got whoops. There. So this is a picture of the book that I used to learn to teach myself how to fly. As you can see, you get up on the top, you take a run, you get airborne, you flare at the bottom, and then you land and you're happy, right? So this book was the closest thing to lessons that I had. Well, it was trial by error, and I made plenty of errors, Sometimes I had a good flight and sometimes I didn't. But anyway, you keep trying the same thing over and over, eventually you'll get it. Now the problem is, Texas is not a great place to hang glide. It's kind of flat. You need some altitude to fly, but grassy hills, you need something better than that. That's the next step. Well, I graduated and moved to Washington, D.C., and started flying some sites on the East Coast. But anyway, that's one of them. Chattanooga, Tennessee. That is a place called Point of the Mountain. I mean, not Point of the Mountain, Lookout Mountain, and it's a world famous flying site still today.
Are you wearing any pants?
Sure. Anyway, so from Washington, D.C., I moved on to Colorado. Now Colorado is a haven for hang gliding. It has some fabulous flying sites. And this is an example. This is Crested Butte, Colorado, which is also a ski area. And there was tons of flying there. Now, there was a club in Denver called the Fellow Feathers, and it was extremely active. There was over 150 hang glider pilots in the club, and we had regional competition, which actually Crested Butte was one of them, where we would have contests, flying contests, and send the top pilots to the national competition.
And what was the winning based on? The person who stayed up the longest?
Well, there's all kinds of, there's spot landings, there's acrobatics, there's, a lot of different, the highest altitude, and that you get. Anyway, Colorado was fantastic. Let's see. Here's a place that's actually not far away from Crested Butte. That peak behind in the foreground is Mount Princeton, one of, 40 or 50 14ers in Colorado. There was a road up to the 12,000 foot mark. Oh, there was a road up to the 12,000 foot mark on Mount Princeton where there was that was a launch. You get your glider up there because you're not going to carry your glider. They weigh over 50 pounds, and that's not including your harness, your parachute, and your instruments and all that stuff. So you got to be able to park near where you fly. And I'm putting this here because I was able to hook a thermal to gain more altitude, and I ended up going all the way to cloud base, which was over 16,000 feet at this spot on this day. While I was in Colorado, me and a buddy planned a big trip to Hawaii, and we were setting out to fly probably the two most popular and famous hang gliding sites in Hawaii. One was on Oahu, and the other one was on Maui. Oops. This is Makapu. It's on the windward side of the island of Oahu. In other words, Honolulu is on the downwind side. On the other side of the ridge is the windward side. And as you can see, it's kind of steep. And this, of course, is the launch pad. By the way, this guy, he was ahead of me in line. He had, at that time, the world record endurance flight at this very site, which was over 24 hours. He flew in one flight. He flew over 24 hours at this site. He got in the record books because that's how consistent the wind is with the trade winds at this site. Now notice there's a guy on the nose here. Well, you got to have a guy on your nose at this site. If you tried to get up there and then move your glider into the wind, you'd definitely be blown over because the air is coming directly up the cliff. I mean, it is, you got to get your glider over the wing of your glider into the air in order to take off safely. So in order to do that, you had to have a nose wire guy. Okay, well, there's the step. You see the step down there?
Oh, yeah.
And you see the rope. That's to tie off your nose wire guy so that he doesn't fall down the cliff. I'm not so sure that the nose wire job wasn't more dangerous than the takeoff. So anyway, this is what it looks like in the air. Looking down, you can see the gliders lined up for takeoff. But this is what it looks like. You actually could see some other gliders in the air. There's a couple of them. I mean, this isn't. I mean, I'm taking film camera here, and I think, you know, I'm letting go of the glider and taking pictures because I didn't have, you know, that was long before GoPro. Anyway. When you took off, when you got your glider over the cliff, you yell clear, and you take one step and you go up like a rocket. I mean, it is an amazing elevator ride at this site. Now, next we went off to Maui. There's a big volcano on Maui, Haleakala. And we planned this months in advance because we had to rent gliders, you know, and the guy that rented us gliders on Maui was also he was the basically the primary guy on the island that you could use to guide you through to the landing on the beach. Because the danger at Haleakala is actually being stuck in a cloud, flying into a cloud and losing all orientation, which is no bueno because you could crash it back into the volcano or end up over the ocean and land in the ocean, which is, I think, more dangerous than crashing into the volcano. So Dave was his name, and there was like 6 of us. We followed him through the cloud canyons because it's always cloudy on Haleakala. I mean, it is rare not to have clouds at the top of that mountain. And so he got us to, if you're familiar with Maui, the landing area was in Kihei, and where you see that Kihei. And this is probably 3,000 feet above ground, still above cloud level. In 1984 was the end of the era in Colorado. I sold my beautiful red glider. I'm kind of partial to red. And moved to Walnut Creek, and where instead of buying a hang glider, I bought an ultralight aircraft when I got here. So I went on to bigger and better things, so I thought. And this is near Keystone, which is another ski area. So in 2023, I just, I had during the 20 years that I took a break in hang gliding, I was constantly thinking of the good old days, because especially in Denver with the Fellow Feathers Club. I mean, it was a huge social element. Every flying site had camping area. I mean, and there's a lot of wait around for the conditions. You see, you're sitting around, kicking the dirt and talking and inflating your flying stories, And then, of course, there's always the party after flying. And so they were very, very good times for me. And when I started looking into hang gliding, the one thing I noticed is that there were a bunch of old people just like me still in the sport. In fact, my instructor here, which is the first time I actually had any instructor, he was 6 months older than me. He started flying in 1973. And so what's happened in the industry is that all the younger pilots gravitated to paragliding. And paragliding is a lot more convenient sport. I mean, you can pack up, you know, a backpack. You can put everything, your instruments, your parachute, your wing, harness, everything into a backpack and throw it on an airplane or throw it in the trunk of your car. Hang gliders, my hang glider is 18 feet long and it weighs 50 pounds. You're not going to throw that on an airplane very easily. So all the younger people moved to paragliding. I actually bought a paraglider in like 2002, and I took lessons, flew it for 3 or 4 years, but I just couldn't get, having a wing that wasn't rigid didn't feel good to me. It just didn't. And there is collapses in paragliding are not, in fact, they're pretty common. You're going to get a collapse now and then. And that didn't sit well with me. So I decided to get back into hang gliding and take some real lessons. And this is what the grassy hill, flying off a grassy hill looks like. Just like that page in the book I showed you, right? That's in near, not Gilroy. It's basically south of Gilroy. Yeah, Hollister. It's near Hollister. So anyway, I got back into hang gliding, and of course, I bought me another red glider. Now this is a shot of Fort Funston, which is a normal place that I fly. It's the closest. It's a world famous hang gliding site. It's south of Ocean Beach, not very far away from Ocean Beach. And as you can see down the coast, that higher cliff area, that's called Westlake in Daly City. And you could, on good soarable days, you can take off here at Fort Funston and go all the way down to the end where you see those cliffs and fly and come back. You can fly for hours. And the cool thing about Funston is you also land literally, 20, 30 yards from where you take off. So it makes it, the last thing you want to do is land on the beach, because then you have to break your glider down, then go up a sandy, steep path carrying 50 pounds plus of other stuff. That's a no bueno job. So, so far I have not had to land on the beach, thank God. Now this is what a takeoff and flying at Fort Funston looks like. No, actually, you're going up. I mean, believe it or not, these gliders are very maneuverable. I mean, you are the stick of the aircraft. The pilot is the stick. And when you shift your weight to the left or the right, forward or back, the glider reacts very, very quickly. Now, this is what it looks like when you're flying. And this is an illustration of a landing at Fort Funston. So I had a camera mounted to the glider.
And that's you?
That's me. So I kick my feet out of the harness, and I'm coming up. I'm actually approaching the takeoff spot right now. And how's that? Anyway, so that's what it looks like to fly at Fort Funston.
How long were you up here?
I normally fly about an hour. I mean, I get plenty in an hour. You know, a good easy takeoff, a good easy landing, and an hour flight is perfect for me. I'm good for the day. This next shot is over at that steeper cliff area called Westlake, and this is what that looks like. You can see a paraglider down there below. Now, Fort Funston is way over here. That's where Fort Funston is. Now, this is I'm probably like 1,600 feet off the ocean here, because the cliff area is, like 1,100 feet. So what you do is you actually surf a wave of air. The wind coming off the ocean hits the cliff, then it creates a wave when it goes over the top of the cliff, and the air that's going up is soarable. I mean, it creates, you can go up, you can fly the glider to the very top of that wave, that invisible wave that you can't see. So that's basically what you do, and we call it ridge soaring. Yeah.
Is that taxing to the body? Is it easy on your body?
Well, I'm kind of in a hammock. That it's very comfortable. It's no big deal. You can see I've got things holding up my knees, and it's also connected to my shoulders. So when I bring my shoulders down, it brings my legs up. So it's pretty comfortable. Getting in it is a kind of a chore. Getting in and out is a chore. Now, this is another place that I used to fly when I was in Denver, was in Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah. There's a place between Salt Lake and Provo called Point of the Mountain, which is world famous. The government there actually has flying. There's parks designated for flying there, and this is one of them. And this is basically a Fort Funston in the desert, because the wind comes that brown area. This brown area right here is the hill. In fact, you see this area here, that's where the beginners, they'll fly off the hill here and then land down here. But of course, if you're not a beginner, you don't want to go down and land. You want to land on top, because that's right where your glider was set up. So you can see, I'm probably, 150, 200 feet above here. Now this is what it looks like to land at Point of the Mountain. It's very similar to what you saw in Fort Funston. You can see the gliders are set up there. My car is right there. And so you basically drift back behind the ridge to where the air is going horizontal. It's no longer going up. You're on the back side of the wave, and then you just basically glide down, lose altitude, because that's what gliders do when there's no lift. And there's enough wind coming at me that I don't need to go forward, because the whole trick is you got to have air going over the wing. It doesn't matter if you're going forward or the wind's coming at you, the combination of the two creates the lift on your wing.
When do you lose the training wheels?
Pardon me?
When do you lose the training wheels?
Oh, no, I like the wheels on the glider because if I do have a hard landing, it reduces the pressure on the control bar, and it helps me not bend the control bar and have to replace the part. So I like the small wheels on there. And these aren't considered training wheels. The training wheels are huge. Yeah.
So we need to use the microphone if we're gonna.
Yeah. I tell you what, I'm almost done, and we'll have the questions then. Okay? So this is a place called Hat Creek. It's about 50 miles northeast of Reading. You know, between Mount Shasta and Lassen Peak. And this is a mountain flying site. The landing field is this big area over here. And the local club there had a fly-in last July, and I decided to go check that out. So we were all camping. There's like 35 pilots, and we were all camping over here in this area. You know, there was a spot landing contest, there's a big dinner and the whole bit, so a little social element came back. And this is what a mountain flight takeoff looks like. It's very similar to the Fort Funston. You can see the dust as I kick up. There's plenty of wind coming up the ridge. And this is only the takeoff that I have here on video. I was able to gain about 1,000 feet on this flight and then land over at the, it was about an hour. So anyway, there is Mount Shasta. No, that's it. So the other thing, remember that other fantasy I had as a kid? Behind, no, not the roof, but zooming behind the model, the fighter jet model. Well, I was able to achieve that a few years ago by taking a ride on this L-39 Albatross, which was it's the go-to trainer for Russian fighter jet pilots. In fact, there's up at Bryan, there's like a group of like 5 of these in Byron.
Patriot. Friend of mine.
Yeah,
Patriot flying.
Patriots.
He spoke to us.
Oh.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was able to realize both fascinations as a kid in my old age. So even now, when a glider lifts off, I still feel that rush of, feeling like I got a cape on my around my neck. And hang gliding isn't just a sport to me, it's a freedom, a peace, and pure joy. After 50 years, I marvel at what humans can do. I mean, it is a experience that I hope each of you find something in your life that makes you feel as free and exhilarated as hang gliding does for me.